Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of our conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I am pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. Today, we have another thought-provoking conversation lined up. And I am very pleased to have for this conversation one of my dear friends, a respected leader here in the United States, Imam Zaid Shaker. He is our guest for today. And the subject that we're going to be dealing with is takeaways from the recent presidential debate. This is the topic that we are going to be discussing today. And as folks here in the United States are well aware, and certainly folks in other parts of the world, especially in the global north, are aware, this is one of the most consequential elections in recent American history, one of the most consequential. And so it is a very important discussion for us to have, not just, sharing thoughts, opinions on the recent debate that took place, but all of, or I should say some of the political minutia surrounding that debate. Without any further ado, we want to welcome our brother to the platform, Imam Zaid Shaker. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I apologize, I'm in the car, so.
Well, that's quite all right, brother. I'm in a hotel room in Columbus, Ohio, and I've been having challenges with my technology. So, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to work through this.
Inshallah. This is my mobile office.
Your mobile office. That's good. That's good, brother. Alhamdulillah. It's good that you can take it with you. All right. The first obvious question is what is your opinion on the debate that just took place between Vice President Kamala Harris and wannabe president again, Donald Trump? Let's begin with that.
It wasn't really a debate. Okay. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. First of all, technically, it wasn't a debate. It was a question and answer session where the two candidates were asked questions from a couple members of the media, and they responded. But it wasn't a debate in the sense that the candidates themselves are engaging in a running dialogue, responding to questions from each other, responding to questions, examining, challenging, analyzing each other's ideas. So it was a largely scripted Q&A session to begin with. So I start with that. I think it was emblematic of our political system here in the United States at the present moment. It was a person who at best can be described as a demagogue, Donald Trump, and a person who is a product of spin, marketing, branding. So we had the brand of Kamala Harris versus the demagogue Donald Trump. And that being the case, I think most observers know what you're going to get out of that.
So, given the framework that you just put what took place in, it wasn't really a debate. It was more of a question and answer session. What, in your view, what is or should be the takeaway from that? Uh,
Yeah, I think the takeaway should be that the actual political space between the two parties is minuscule. They both will continue the genocide in Gaza. They both will continue to give unrestrained, uncritical, immoral support to the military industrial complex. They both will continue the rape of the environment. And so the only real political space is lies in the way the respective parties manipulate the masses of the people. So I think the Democrats manipulate the people into believing that somehow they're on the side of the people. They're the elephant. They're on the side of the masses. But in reality, they do very little for the masses. And as particularly their most strident, consistent, largest in terms of percentage of population voting for them, the African American community. What has the Democratic Party done over the last few decades for the African American community? There's very little you can identify. And the Republicans on the other side waver between a party that's a white nationalist party. So they promise white folks here in the United States that they're going to bring jobs back. They're going to restore a lost pride, if you will. Uh, and Trump's first term, he did not bring the jobs back. He did not polish the rust off of the Rust Belt. Uh, so that's where the real differences lie in how the respective parties manipulate the masses of the people. But on the big issues, the issue of the environment, the issue of the military-industrial complex, the issue of Gaza, or Sudan for that matter, where there's a hidden, in Gaza, there's an obvious American hand. In Sudan, through their various proxies, there's a hidden American plan. But neither party is going to do anything to restrain the obvious hand in Gaza or the hidden hand in places like Sudan. So there's very little real political. Neither party is going to engage in any meaningful electoral reform. Neither party is going to address the undemocratic nature of the American political system. It's not a representative democracy. When California, with almost 40 million people, has two senators representing 40 million people, and Nevada has two senators representing 2 million people, that's not a democracy. When you have the Electoral College, which one of the parties threatens to manipulate in a way that would negate the popular vote even more so than the Electoral College negates the popular vote. That's not a true democracy. And there's a scenario where one party can have 10 or 20 million more votes than the other party and lose because they have an overwhelming, they win by one vote in the 5 states with the most electoral votes. One candidate could win by one vote in Texas, one vote in California, one vote in New York State, one vote in Pennsylvania, one vote in Georgia. So they're 5 votes ahead in those states, but they can lose by 20 million votes in the other 48 states and win the presidential election. That's not a democracy. But no, neither party is going to address that. Neither party is going to address the probably the most corrupt electoral system on the face of this earth. Corrupt because if you have enough money, you can buy the Congress. The Zionists through AIPAC have bought the Congress. The NRA, the gun manufacturers, who are, and this is nothing neither party is going to address, who are flooding Latin America with small arms that the cartels are using to terrorize the people there. They're not going to address that, are flooding this country with guns. We have school shooting after school shooting. In our inner cities, our young people are slaughtering each other in the streets. Neither party is going to address that. And that's just a microcosm of the larger military industrial complex. So neither party is going to do anything to address the big issues that can really make a difference for not only people in this country, but people throughout this world rather. So it's just a case of how the respective parties manipulate mass sentiments to win electoral office.
You and I can both agree that both parties are very problematic. And as you just clearly articulated, both parties have contributed to what is a sham of a democracy. With that being said, Mehdi Hassan made an interesting observation that I'd like to run by you, your thoughts on it. He said, and this kind of factors into the heated debate that's going on right now within many circles across the board on, where votes should go. His view was that voters, in his opinion, should select the candidate that they would want as the opposition for the next 4 years. I mean, that was the sum of what he said. What are your thoughts on that? Because there is going to be an election. Right. There's going to be a winner of that election, and there's going to be a consequence to whoever that winner is. What are your thoughts?
I don't totally get the point. I'm sure he elaborated on it. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit so I can have greater clarity before I endeavor to address it.
Okay, what I took from it, and my interpretation of it could be incorrect, but this is what I took from it. Who you want your the opposition to be for the next 4 years? Who do you think you're going to be able to make? Which one do you think you're going to be able to exert enough pressure on to produce some positive change?
Okay, I understand. I think, first of all, I think that question ties into your intro, that this will be the most consequential election in the history of the country. That was said about the last 3 or 4 elections. And that's and I think this issue that you now raise, in other words, how could each election be the most consequential? Like, maybe one is, but every election cycle, there's a new reason to declare this election the most consequential. This election, some people say, if Trump comes to office with the prospect of implementing the Plan 2020, that
Project
it will
2025, yes.
2025. I'm sorry, Plan 2025. It will harken the end of American democracy. Therefore, no matter what happens, we have to stop Trump. Others, particularly the Muslim community, that the Biden-Harris administration has presided over this horrific, immoral, atrocious genocide in Gaza. Therefore, we have to punish them, and that makes this election so consequential. And so there, and Trump promises that he'll be far more pro-Zionist, far more pro-Israel than even the Democrats, if that's possible. He'll reinstitute the Muslim ban. He's going to do all of these terrible things that will impact the Muslim community in very egregious and ugly ways. And therefore, that makes this for the Muslim community extremely consequential. I would say that it's time for the Muslim community to develop our own political parties based on our own principles, so we don't have to constantly see ourselves placed in a situation where we're voting for the lesser of two evils. And if we're going to support a third party, be that the Green Party or Dr. Cornel West, the India or whoever, a third party that if they're lucky they'll get 1% of the vote, then we should start our own party and use that party to educate people about Islam, to unify the Muslims around a shared political agenda and a shared political platform, so we can then negotiate with the two dominant parties in a meaningful and significant way. I think that equation, which puts the responsibility on us as a community to mature and to put our ideas out there. There are a lot of Americans. We say, oh, if we vote for Trump, at least we'll be voting for someone who shares our social and cultural values. We'll be voting for someone who's against transgender women competing against biological women in our sports. We'll be voting for someone who's against this total assault on our youth by the trans-industrial complex. We'll be voting for someone who shares our views, or used to share our views, on abortion. If we vote for the Democrats, even though the things we just mentioned, they're extremely for, at least they share our view on the environment. They share some of our views in terms of social welfare and programs for the poor, etc. Either way, though, it's a 50-50 compromise. Why don't we how many Americans out there fear for their future, the future of their children, in light of the LGBTQ trans industrial complex? How many Americans feel they shouldn't have to compromise one set of values, for example, to work for environmental justice? How many Americans feel that I shouldn't have to compromise one set of values in order to advocate another set? I want moral consistency. I want ethical consistency. I want political consistency. There are a whole lot of folks out there. And if we as Muslims step forward and put together a consistent program that I will call the Malcolm X program, Malcolm was socially conservative and he was politically progressive. And so if we had a Malcolm program, there would be a whole lot of Americans who would support that. And over time, that could develop into a party that would get a whole lot of support that could challenge the duopoly of the Democrats and the Republicans. So I think that has to be part of the conversation for us as Muslims as we talk about how we should engage this political system. Otherwise, we'll be fragmented. We'll be fragmented because some of us will say we should prioritize our Muslim social values. We should prioritize just the reality of religion that we share with the Republicans, even though a lot of that Republican religion might be racist, uh, anti-poverty, etc. Or Muslims who are saying no, we need to punish the other party. Except we're going to be divided, we're going to be fragmented, and we'll have minimal appeal to large swaths of the non-Muslim public in this country as long as we're chasing these two problems, these two parties as a footnote in the history that they're writing. I think at a certain point as Muslims, we're going to have to start writing our own history. And people become footnotes in the history that we're writing. And if that doesn't immediately solve some of the short-term issues we're dealing with, the compromises that we're talking about right now aren't going to solve those issues either. You know, whether we dump Kamala Harris or vote for Kamala Harris, we're going to have the issues we have in Gaza. We're going to have the issues of income inequality that we have in this country. We're going to have poor white folks in Appalachia still dealing with the opioid crisis, alcoholism, few economic opportunities, regardless of the fact that if we vote for Harris or Trump, we're still going to have the military-industrial complex. Regardless if we vote for Harris or Trump, we're still going to have an economic philosophy pushed through the Bretton Woods post-World War II system with the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, that's predicated on keeping Africa dirt poor, regardless of whether we vote for Harris or Trump. So if fundamental issues aren't going to change regardless of who we vote for, why don't we start voting for ourselves? Why don't we start putting our ideas and our agenda out there for the wider American public to assess? So that's how I see the whole situation.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a commercial break and come back on the other side. We'll be right back, inshallah.
Please pull over so I can drive.
It's okay.
You're using one hand, it's going to strain your wrist.
It's okay.
This will give you a chance to get the
Humanity sets the agenda.
Are you planning a wedding, birthday party, corporate event, or any special occasion? Kane's Catering Services got you covered. Our catering services are here to elevate your event to unforgettable heights. From tantalizing appetizers to mouth-watering main courses and desserts, our culinary creations are crafted with passion and precision to delight your guests' taste buds. Our spit braai is a talk of the town. Indulge in succulent, tender meats, slow roasted to perfection over an open flame. Kane's Catering Services chefs bring creativity and expertise to every dish they prepare, ensuring that each bite is a culinary masterpiece. We take care of your guests while you relax and enjoy every moment of your function. Whether it's plated meals to a simple buffet, we are on top of it all. Ready to start planning your perfect event? Get in touch with us today to discuss your catering needs and request a personalized quote. Let us Take your event to the next level with our exceptional catering services. Kanis Catering Services, situated at number 373 Jabun Lovo Street, Pietermaritzburg. Call now 033 342 3511 or email us on info@kanis.co.za. For Pietermaritzburg and surrounding areas only, visit www.kanis.co.za.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced, with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with many appeal organizations in Gaza.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
In the Eastern Cape, children are facing unimaginable hunger. A baby was rescued, fed only powdered drink. A young girl lost her life searching for food. Children eat grass to survive and return to school on Mondays too hungry to learn, some even crying from hunger. Teachers and principals are giving what little they have, but it's not enough. This Ramadan and rural Eastern Cape. Together, we can feed hope, fight hunger, foster change. Donate to the OP or contact us on 041 484 1288.
You South African, of course. You anxious about the future. We've got you covered. Build on your wealth portfolio with Rendry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange. Visit us at 151 Stephen Dlamini Road, Musgrave, Durban, or call us on 031 202 4600. More information. Rendry Jewelers Gold Coin Exchange. Your passport to gold investment.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Best thing to do, even though he broke.
Welcome back. We are today conversing with our brother Imam Zaid Shaker, where the focus of our conversation is on the recent presidential debate and related factors. Imam Zaid, we both agree, we're on the same page with the point that you made about the importance of Muslims developing their own political autonomy. We're on the same page with regard to that. But we both know also that this is something that's going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take Muslim leaders and activists, coming together and having a sincere desire to work together for a very important common cause. This is something that should be an objective of ours, but again, it's going to take time. In the here and now, what is your advice to Muslims in the here and now, given the critical state, the critical social and political state that this country is in, and the fact that, as you pointed out, we've got two major political parties. We've got independent parties that you've noted will probably not get more than 1% of the vote. I'm hoping that the independents will get more than that. That they will get a stronger showing this year. But I also do hope that, from my perspective, that Trump does not win re-election. It has to be one or the other between Trump and Harris. And I just don't want Trump to win the election because I believe that it will be far more uh, punishingly consequential for the least of these, the most vulnerable members of our society. And this is something that concerns me. What are your thoughts on that? And also, what are your thoughts on the importance of the down ballot? How important is that?
Yeah, I think down ballots are absolutely important. All politics are local, and my last local election in our town, I voted for the Republicans for the school board because they would advocate for policies in the school that are more consistent with what I would endorse. And I voted for the Democrats for the city council because they are going to spend the money in ways that are more consistent with ideas that I would endorse. So I think starting locally, and as they say, all politics are local, one assess and analyze which candidates are advocating for things that would be more consistent and more compatible with my values on various issues. In terms of the national election, the same thing. I think we assess individual candidates, we assess the two parties on issues that are most consistent with what we would endorse or would stand for. And then for president, I'm not voting for either one. To be honest, I didn't in the last election. I can't morally justify voting for either one of these candidates who have a tremendous amount of power. I think Muslims should vote their conscience, and as you get more local at the state level, it's easier to find candidates whose values are more consistent with what one's values might be because they're less beholden to the donors, even though the money in our political system, even at the state level, is becoming obscene. So you're dealing with a corrupt system. And at a certain point, I think we have to trust in Allah that if we take the initiative to try to create, even though it's a long game, as you're implying, a more just system, then we don't know how the tawfiq will come. Our Prophet ﷺ, as you know, with a relative handful of believers, challenged two empires, the Persian Empire and the Byzantine Empire. And he was able to prevail. Why? Because of divine intervention. That's the reality. That's the reality. And we don't know when and what form that divine intervention will come. But if we never take the initial step to begin to do the things that invite divine intervention, if we feel the only options we have involve compromises of our fundamental values, then a more wholesome, less corrupt system, the reality, I'm sure yourself, you will find your political values more consistent with those of Jamal Bowman and Cory Bush. But the corrupt system that allow outside parties to come into those local congressional elections and literally buy those seats, those congressional seats. So you have two less voices in our Congress petitioning for Gaza and petitioning for free Palestine and a system that would allow for Jews to live in peace. At what point do we say this is unconscionable? This system itself, even if it can bring us short-term benefit, changing it and orienting it and joining together with our Americans system, joining together to push for getting money out of our political system so that this corruption can stop. And it's not just AIPAC and the Zionists. It mentions the NRA. It's the trans lobby. There are studies that have led the Scandinavian countries, that have led the government of the United Kingdom to stop puberty blockers for teenagers, to stop the transgender surgeries for individuals under 18 years of age because of the psychological, psychiatric damage that's being done to our youth and the way they're being manipulated. Those policies were stopped in this country because of the influence of the trans lobby and the money of the trans lobby. So I'm not trying to pick on them, but just say their money, the money of the NRA, the money of AIPAC, the money of the petrochemical industries to undermine any meaningful move towards alternative energy. As long as we have a system where money can buy electoral seats at both the state and federal levels, we're going to constantly be confronting these moral dilemmas and presented with these compromises and trying to find ways to have our principles reflected in our elected officials. So I would say when what should Muslims do? Vote your conscience. Vote your conscience. Should we vote for this party or that party? I don't think it's my place to tell people who to vote for. Just to vote your conscience. And as you vote your conscience, be thinking about ways to begin to support initiatives when they do appear, and inevitably they will appear, to start working towards a longer term vision of what a just system would look like and how do we get from the current system to that system. So yes, you're absolutely right. We have immediate concerns, but I personally, I can't see how either party addresses those immediate concerns. We might say, well, Trump is going to start building concentration camps. His first term, he didn't do that. Trump is going to implement the policies of 2025, and he's going to be a dictator, not just on day one. He was just playing with words when he said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one. But he didn't say he's not going to be a dictator on day 2 or 3 or 4. I would like to see him get away with that, with the military standing by and doing nothing. And especially in light of the fact of the extreme dislike that most of the military establishment has for Trump. I'd like to see him impose himself as a dictator. My cousin is a major general, retired major general in the Army. And we have some barn burner conversations at the family reunions. I tell you one thing, him and his ilk are not going to stand by and allow anybody to go unopposed, challenge the ultimate authority of the Constitution of the United States, because those military officers who are expressing their disdain for Trump have taken a serious oath to defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic. And at the point that Donald Trump, or anyone else for that matter, declares themselves a dictator, I think you're going to see, just as that will be unprecedented in this country, you're going to see an intervention from the military that's also going to be unprecedented in this country. So what I'm saying is that the extreme threat, the worst case scenario represented in a Trump presidency, might not in reality be what a lot of people think it's made out to be. Wallahu alam wal musta'an.
Okay, as we near the conclusion of this conversation, brother, I'd like to have you share something concerning our sister Afia, Dr. Afia Siddiqui. There is going to be a number of efforts taking place, both in different parts of the world for Afia this month, around the 22nd, 23rd, marking, a very dark anniversary, a very dark and oppressive anniversary. What are your thoughts on this sister that, if I recall correctly, you had some brief, you had the occasion to meet her and to be in the same space as she, and you have your impression of her and also your impression of this now 21, almost 22 year catastrophe that she and her family have been engulfed in.
Yeah.
What thoughts can you share on Afia Siddiqui?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. She was very involved in the peaceful propagation of Islam. She was at Brandeis and MIT, and in the New England area. I was in the New England area, so there have been occasions where our paths have crossed, where we've shared the stage together. May Allah preserve her. But I think that the bigger question here is, we were just talking about the military. National security cases are very difficult cases because there's a perception that if you allow justice in some instances, if you allow egregious breaches of juridical process to be overturned, somehow that implies weakness in the security apparatus of this country. And so Afia's case is a national security case. Imam Jamil's case is a national security case. Eric Snowden's case is a national security case. Julian Assange's case is a national security case. And we could go on and on. Therefore, overturning the rulings that have led to the unjust exile of Snowden, the unjust persecution, confinement, and possible, I think the extradition thing is out of the question now, but the threat of an unjust extradition for so long for Julian Assange, the threat of the injustices that our sister Afia Siddiqui has had to endure, all of these points, one of the points I'm making, the 22 years of Afia's incarceration, they've occurred under both Democratic and Republican administrations. Neither of them have had any inclination to pursue justice in her case. the more lengthy persecution and incarceration of Leonard Peltier has proceeded under both Democratic and Republican administrations. And I would be beyond surprised if the current appeal for justice in the case of Leonard Peltier that has come across the desk of President Biden would be entertained in any meaningful way. So I think that, first of all, we pray, because at the end of the day, all of these people making these decisions are servants of Allah that Allah is using, and the way He's using them and in the way He's doing us for wisdom that He understands best. Secondly, just to continue the efforts that yourself have championed so valiantly to continue to work, to petition, to appeal, to organize for her release. And I think ultimately to start the meaningful work of developing meaningful political power. Right? So it's one thing to speak truth to power, and that's extremely important. That's essential for democracy. Dissent is essential for true democracy. And I think one of the things that you rightly fear in terms of a Trump administration is the crushing and stifling of dissent and protest because of certain threats that he has issued. And that's real. I don't deny that. That's very real. But unless and until we also move not just to speak truth to power, but to build power, to organize ourselves so that we have universal, or as close as we can get to meaningful universal voter registration in the Muslim community. There most of our communities, less than 10% of the members are registered to vote. We have to organize ourselves. We have to get our community registered. We have to develop a meaningful political agenda that's principled and transcends the crises of the day. And so we can begin to advocate for principles consistent with those transcendent and enduring policies consistent with those transcending and enduring principles. We have to, once we organize ourselves as blocks of voters, we have to begin to develop the financial strength that would allow us to meaningfully impact the political system. So if hypothetically there are 10 to 15 million Muslims in this country, what if we were able to organize a small fraction, 1 million, and those 1 million, we demanded or asked that those 1 million pay $50 a month. $50 a month into a political action organization or institution, and the various forms those might take. That's $50 million a year. What if we just say, in light of the challenges we face as a community, every working member, let's up that to 100 million. To $100 a month. Let's get rid of your Starbucks. Shouldn't be going there anyway. Get rid of your pizza. It'll be good for your waistline. And let's squeeze out $100 a month. That's $100 million a year. $100 million a year, we could say, okay, those who didn't want Jamal Bowman in office, they spent $19 million. We're going to spend $25 million to keep him in office. That's only a quarter of what we have. So and this is one reason I think that the promise of third parties with no money is never going to be actualized in a meaningful way. Ralph Nader, running for president under the auspices of the Green Party, with his name recognition, with his national stature as the greatest consumer protection advocate in the history of this country. He got 3%. He got 3%. Why?
Mm-hmm.
No money. And so when we talk about, we have to begin ways to us build power, to build. And so we're not finding ways to bring our money together, then the dilemmas that we face now, and may Allah bless all of the efforts and initiatives that are undertaken right now to deal, as you rightfully and justly said, with issues that have tremendous impact and implications for Muslims right now. May Allah, everyone, many people, many are working on many different fronts. And my final advice, because I've arrived at my destination, my final advice would be, we have to respect each other. You know, these issues in terms of how we approach them, they're ijtihadat. They're issues that are amenable to differences of opinion. So they're not, oh, someone's trying to say we only have 4 prayers. That's something we fight. But who we support, how we should support them. There are different opinions, there are different approaches. Everyone wants the best for our community, our country, and our children. So I think we have to really respect that, and we're going to different. We have to in a way that members of one.
Imam Zaid, you're breaking up terribly now. It's hard for us to understand, but I understand. The point that you're ending with is a very good point to end on, and that is the importance of us being conscious of the ethics of disagreement. According to the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of our Prophet, and that is a very, very good point for us to end this conversation on, brother. I want to thank you for joining us. I'm glad you safely made it to your destination while engaged in this conversation. May Allah Ta'ala bless the rest of your day. And inshallah Ta'ala, we'll be talking again, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Okay, Brother Sadiq. Inshallah Ta'ala, brother, what I'd like for us to do, we just have a few minutes left. That piece of video, that important piece of video that in the 11th hour, your brother Saalakhan decided that we wanted to make a part of this broadcast. It involves a state representative. I believe she's from Georgia. She's Palestinian. And she is providing some very important political nasiha that speaks to the divisions that we are experiencing right now over the issues, over the issue of these two candidates and their respective parties who are running for the highest office in the land. So we want to hear from her, inshallah ta'ala, and then we'll bring this to a close. Let's see that video, Brother Sadiq.
This video is specifically for Palestinians, Muslims, and our allies. If that's not you, if you're somebody who's very partisan, who cannot hear any criticism right now, please keep scrolling. This video is not for you. First and foremost, I want to validate the anger, the frustration, the hurt, the feeling of hopelessness. Everything that you are feeling is incredibly valid. I need you to, I'm an elected official, I'm a Democrat, I need you to hear this from somebody in my position. Everything you are feeling is valid. And I'm making this video because I need you to understand why I am doing what I am doing, because the reality of the situation is that people are going to spread misinformation and disinformation. So first and foremost, I have no political ambitions. I was actually forced into kind of running for office. It's like a long story and I'm happy to share later, but I don't have political ambitions. When I was in Chicago, I wasn't even supposed to be at the DNC. I kind of got pulled into all of this, and the tactic and strategy specifically there was either to be able to, even if just symbolically show there's room for Palestinians in our party, even at the most national level, or if the DNC had said no, be able to literally show the institutionalized racism against Palestinians that still exists within the party. And you're probably thinking right now, so why are you still a Democrat? Let me explain. The DNC is just one Democratic organization of literally thousands around the country. There are state level Democrats, there are county level Democrats, there are city level Democrats. Like in Georgia, for example, my county has the Gwinnett Democrats, but then there's also Young Democrats of Georgia, and then there's like the Democratic Party of Georgia, and then there's like each county has a party, and then there's like Young Democrats of Atlanta. Like there are literally thousands of Democratic organizations that are just not the DNC. And within those Democratic organizations, and particularly down ballot, more and more and more and more and more Democrats, in fact, the majority in a lot of these organizations are now very pro-Palestine. And they have been incredibly supportive of not just me, but other candidates who believe this way. And not just that, my caucus, my House caucus, voted or chose not to vote, or like voted against or like walked on a bill that would have defined anti-Semitism to include criticism of the state of Israel. The bill was going to pass anyway, and they chose to stand with our communities. 2/3. Not just that, even at the DNC itself, where it's supposed to be like a big rally, big party, big pep thing situation, even the most hardcore Democrats, the majority of them stood with us. Yes, there were hecklers. Yes, there were people who were very annoying and insensitive. And understand that the DNC is meant to be a rally. It is not meant to be a place to hash out differences. And those same people came out and stood with us and demanded that a Palestinian speak on that stage. So when you ask me why I'm still a Democrat, that's one of the many reasons. The other reason is there are no other viable parties on the national level. None whatsoever. They don't exist. And when people come to me and say you should join the Green Party, Jill Stein has been at the top of that ticket for 12 years, and she has yet to build out legitimate infrastructure and win down ballot races. 12 years. This woman's been around for 12 years, and she can't even grow out her base. And so I just think a lot about that, and it really makes me upset because I see a lot of you asking me to leave the Democratic Party, and I know you're probably like, how in the world can she still stay a Democrat? And the thing is, the DNC is not just it. There's so much more. And not only that, even Harris delegates, the most hardcore Harris supporters, recruited each other to become ceasefire delegates at the convention. The Young Democrats of Georgia gave me a standing ovation on Saturday, and they all, from that stage, talked about how the DNC messed up. So you tell me, when you have built that kind of infrastructure, why would you just quit? And the other thing is that the Green Party never asked me to volunteer for them. It was Democrats that showed up to my college campus to recruit us to become volunteers, not the Green Party. So again, I ask, why would I leave? And not just that, more Democrats today, even on a national level, vote against more weapons to Israel than ever before. We have not had a decrease. It's been a consistent trajectory towards no more weapons for Israel. So again, I ask, why would I leave all that behind? Because here's the reality. When we become the majority of the party, whether as voters, as elected officials, and when I say we, I mean those who think this way about this issue, etc., the party has no choice but to listen even at the national level. Right now, we're just not fully there yet. If people, and I'm saying everyone, especially our allies, had cared about this much, even just 2, 3, 5 years ago, things would be so different right now. But they care now. So why would I concede any ground ever on this? Why? That makes absolutely no sense to me, particularly for somebody who, like I said, has been around for 12 years, and I have never been recruited as a volunteer by the Green Party, and I'm politically active. I've never been recruited as a volunteer by the Green Party. I've never seen them on our college campuses, at least mine. I've never seen them try to grow out their base because it's hard work. I want to be clear, this is hard work and you need infrastructure. And when I talk about third parties and down ballot and being strategic, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what are you doing outside of presidential elections? And I'm sure there are people in the Green Party who've been doing this for a long time, who do this year round, but the reality is the top of the ticket keeps failing them. And so again, for me personally, if I know that one party, there is only one viable party on the trajectory that I want them on, why would I leave that behind? And I want to be abundantly clear. We offered our endorsement in exchange for a place for a Palestinian on that stage. That was rejected. So for those of you who are still partisan and still watching this, y'all need to be yelling at the campaign, not at us. And people have every right to be angry about what's going on. I'm furious. But my long-term goal is to ensure that our coalition is strong enough and grows enough that even on the national level, Democrats will have no choice but to listen. Because they are listening, especially down ballot. My colleagues are listening. The people I know are listening. The majority are listening. The amount of people that will send me messages like, I stand with you, are listening. But the other thing I need you to understand is I am the only elected Palestinian who currently lives in a red state controlled by Republicans in all three branches of government. I was on the front lines during Trump. Anybody who downplays a Trump presidency is lying to you. And right now I feel stuck. I literally feel like I have nowhere to go because on the one hand, I personally was rejected by the DNC. And on the other hand, I've got somebody who is genuinely like an evil person. This is not, what do they call it? Like Trump derangement syndrome or whatever. No, this isn't. I literally was on the front lines against this man's policies. I watched it with my own eyes. My life was in danger. So please hear me when I tell you, I'm not selling out. I have no political ambition. Anybody who is saying stuff like that is a liar, because these are people popping up who I've never spoken to before, who've never spoken to, frankly, any of the Palestinian elected officials before. There are people who are using my pain to virtue signal and convince you that the threats that we are facing are not actually that big of a deal. My philosophy is that if I can prevent the death of even a single person, I will make the decisions to do that. Period, end of story. I do not believe in the fact that just because things are bad, that it's okay to let them get worse. And you know who does that, by the way? AIPAC, DMFI, Kufi. They will never, ever, ever, ever punish a candidate, meaning get them out of office, without making sure that the person replacing them is going to be better on their issue. And we need to get to that point. Because the reason we keep regressing, like I saw people talking about the ratchet effect, about how, like, you know, Democrats try to hold the line and Republicans just keep moving us back. That's true. That's 100% true. But to fix that, you don't just take the brakes off. You don't just let it go completely unattended. What you do is you start thinking not just this election, but the next one, and the one after that, and the one after that, and you build towards it, right? Early voting starts in a month. That's the reality. Early voting is going to start in a month. For me, it's like, I'm just trying to get through November, but the question for me isn't just even through November, it's what are we doing right now to build out our strategy for 2026? Because AIPAC's already talking about primarying Ilhan, Rashida, and Summerlee. They're already talking about it because that's what they do. They prep years ahead of time. We can do the same. So please hear me when I tell you that when somebody says that, oh, third party can win, it's not possible. They're lying to you. And the reason I haven't joined a third party, although I'm Working Families like party member. Like, I want to be clear. It's not like, when I said that Democrats are a bunch of parties in one, I really meant it. There's Working Families Party, there's DSA, etc. But my point is that the Green Party ain't it. And I've joined other third parties, for lack of a better word. The Green Party is not it. And for those of you who keep coming into my comments telling me to join the Green Party, that I am betraying my people, whatever, first off, like, not true. And second off, I hope you take a moment and understand that my main priority is to save as many lives as possible. That's it.
Okay, good note to end on. Had a lot of food for thought this afternoon, this evening in South Africa, and I want to thank you for joining us, and close out as we normally do. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wal Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Which means, in translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.